It's your man Kdot. Thank you for joining. This is Sports Talk and whatever. It is early morning, Friday, August the 25th. I have a few topics I want to discuss on this video. The first thing I'm going to get into, and it's going to be super brief, is the NFL. Um, it's the preseason, obviously. It's the second to the last week of the preseason. Most teams are playing their third game. A couple of them, that played in the Hall of Fame game is playing their fourth game of the preseason. But most teams, it's the third game. More importantly, this is what they call the dress rehearsal. And teams will actually start to play their, starters, their projected starters. Usually they play them 2 quarters, at least till halftime. Sometimes they play them, for 3 quarters. But they'll play a good portion of the game more than any other preseason game during this week. So we'll start to see some of the main players for each team out there. Ezekiel Elliott, the star halfback for the Dallas Cowboys, who led the NFL in rushing last year, won the rushing title as a rookie, and obviously is a big part of what they want to do as they try to make a run at the Super Bowl this year. Has been officially suspended by the NFL. The suspension is under appeal, but he is expected to play in this particular game, and it's thought of it might be the only game he plays for a while, particularly if the suspension, remains intact. So he'll be out there for the Cowboys. He's expected to be this weekend. And usually all the starters and the main players will play this week from, between 2 and 3 quarters. And then everybody will be sit out that last game, and it'll be just only backups, really, as the teams establish those final spots on the roster. So that's how that goes. We'll get into more in terms of the actual games and results and whatever happens in the preseason in my next video, after everything wraps up this weekend. So that's all. Not a whole lot of eventful things going on at the moment in the NFL. We'll see what happens. But the big news, or at least some of the big news, is happening in the NBA with the big trade that happened. And I think everybody pretty much knows by now what's going on. Obviously, Kyrie Irving, formerly of the Cleveland Cavaliers, requested a trade, and the Cavaliers have officially obliged him. So he gets traded to the Boston Celtics, which was the team that was, the closest to them. Remember, the Celtics faced the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals last year and was actually the #1 team in the regular season, record-wise, in the East. So Kyrie Irving joins them. And Cleveland Cavaliers, on the other hand, they get Isaiah Thomas, who was an absolute star player last year for Boston. He really established himself as one of the best in the NBA last year. He was really, really good for them. He had the tragic situation with the car accident and the death of his sister last year during the playoffs, which, obviously that was a heartbreaking situation to see him go through. But he toughed it out, played really, really well. Obviously, he was the star player and the leader of the team. That had a big season last year. Definitely their best season in a while, since like the Boston 3 Party years. So they're the team that's knocking on the door, trying to dethrone the Cavaliers from atop the Eastern Conference, and now Kyrie Irving joins the mix. So Cavaliers get Isaiah Thomas. They get Jay Crowder from Boston to Cleveland. They get a young international player, Ante Zizic. He's like 20 years old, international player from Croatia. I don't believe he's actually played in the NBA yet. A lot of times a team will draft a player, internationally, stash him or whatever. They have his draft rights, so when he finally does come over to the NBA, he'll play for that particular team. So Zizic will be with the Cavaliers whenever he does play. And the Cavaliers also get a first-round draft pick from Boston, the pick that originally was from Brooklyn in that trade years ago when they picked up Kevin Garnett and company. And I got to tell you, I looked at the trade and I really, really, really like it from the Cavaliers standpoint. I really think Cleveland made out great with this deal. Obviously, touching on Boston's side first, obviously they get the star player. Kyrie Irving is the best player in the trade, hands down. And historically, particularly in the NBA, historically, when a trade goes down, no matter what draft picks or what players are exchanged, historically speaking, whatever team got the star player of the trade is usually the team that makes out the best in the trade. I don't think that's going to happen this time. It obviously remains to be seen. But Kyrie Irving is the star of the trade. He's the big fish. He goes to Boston. It's such a different looking team. If you're a Boston Celtics fan, you might be excited because you got Kyrie Irving, but you got to be also concerned of how different the team is looking this year. Remember, they had a team that was #1 in the East last year, record-wise. Obviously, it was the Eastern Conference Finals. They beat Washington, in the tough 7-game series the previous round, and they got knocked off by Cleveland in 5 games. But you got to look at the fact that they already traded away Avery Bradley, who was one of their great defensive players. Then they just traded away Jay Crowder, who was their other, like all their top big-time defensive players. They let him go. So that's very interesting. They did bring in Gordon Hayward, who was a star with Utah. They bring him in the free agency, and now they got Kyrie Irving. So they're not without star players. They definitely have that. But in terms of you got to think of the cohesiveness and the chemistry that a team usually needs in order to be successful. And the fact that they were so close to Cleveland, not saying that they were in position to knock off the Cavs last year, because they weren't. They got, dominated in the series. It was a 5-game series. But my point is, they were the team that was the closest. They were #1 in the record, and they were #2 in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. So you're looking at, you're one step away of getting to the NBA Finals, and then you just totally break up the team as if they were struggling or as if they wasn't going to be good the job, though. So it's very interesting. They have a whole lot of new players this year. I think they got Al Horford, Marcus Smart, and like Jaylen Brown maybe back. I think Terry Rozier. I mean, just only a few people. At the most, 3 to 4 players on the team this coming season that were on the team last year. So they have so many new players. Gordon Hayward being one of them. Now Kyrie Irving coming in, being another. I'm not feeling Boston with this trade, even though they got the #1 player in the trade. I think they gave away far too much to get Kyrie Irving. Now, if the trade was just between, if Boston was the only team that had any assets to trade to Cleveland to get Kyrie Irving, that's one thing. But Boston's looking at it from the standpoint of, hey, they're going up against other teams to try to acquire Kyrie's services too. There were a lot of teams, obviously, in the mix that Kyrie was willing to play for and that Cleveland had to negotiate with. So Boston had to make sure that they put up the best trade in order to be able to get him. Because if someone else put up more, then they would have gotten Kyrie, as far as I'm concerned. So, if sometimes you got to put up what you need to put up to get your man, and they certainly did that. If you're a Cavaliers fan, I'm really, really feeling this trade. If I'm a Cavs fan, obviously you got the #1 player in the NBA, and LeBron James. We get it. He's not the MVP, or the regular season or the finals, but he's universally recognized as the top player in the game. And he lost his sidekick, his #2 player, but now he brings in Isaiah Thomas, who might not be as good as Kyrie Irving, but that is certainly not in my view, not a big drop off. I mean, Isaiah Thomas averaged I think 29 or 30 points a game last year, and was right up there #1 or #2 in fourth quarter points. So he's proven to be a clutch player. He's proven to be a player that you can give the ball down the stretch. And let's be honest, we know when it comes to LeBron James, LeBron's okay with passing the ball to another player to take the clutch shots. He did it with Kyrie Irving. He's done it at other times of his career. And if he does with Isaiah Thomas, Isaiah got no problem taking those shots and taking over the game in the fourth quarter and being a clutch player. He did it with Boston. And I think that LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers would be very inviting of him doing it with them. They get Jay Crowder, who's a big time defensive player. He can shoot. He can shoot some threes as well. He don't give you a whole lot offensively, but he can shoot an open shot. He's really there for his defense, which is something that you need when you got to defend, players like Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard, etc. So you got a guy like Jay Crowder is extremely valuable to have on your team. You get the prospect in Zizic. You don't know what he can do. We really haven't seen him. But he's a big man. I think 6'10", 6'11", whatever he is, 20 years old. So he's a young guy. He's a big man. Something that the Cavaliers have not had a whole lot of a big man. So I don't know if he's going to play. I don't know if he can play. But you have him. Yeah, if potential, if nothing else. And then you get the draft pick, which is from Brooklyn. And that's expected to be a pretty awful team once again. And it's an unprotected pick. That is important. Meaning that thing can hit the lottery for the number one pick. And it will go to the Cavaliers. So if you're Cleveland and you're looking at just a little while ago, wow, it's been talked that, LeBron James is going to leave town. There's been a lot of talks of him going to Los Angeles, or even if he doesn't go to Los Angeles, leaving Cleveland, and in the next year. Nobody really knows if that's really going to happen. I don't think LeBron even knows. It's one of those things that he kind of figures out later and see how this season plays out first. But the truth of the matter is, if you're the Cavaliers, you're bracing yourself for the reality that LeBron very well may leave. Even though we don't know if he will, it's a possibility, and you got to be prepared for that. You can't be like, oh, LeBron leaving, so the franchise is over, we're going to shut the franchise down. No, you got to think about life about LeBron just in case that happens or when it happens. So when you think about the fact that there's going to be life without LeBron, possibly in the next year, Kyrie has already asked to get out and now has gotten out. You pick up Isaiah Thomas, who already has said, he's put it on record, he's not taking a pay cut. He wants a maximum contract. He's played far below market value all of these years. I mean, you're bringing him in and he's making, 10, 12, 13 million and all that type of ridiculously low numbers for him when you got all these other players that are making 18 and 20 and they don't even necessarily start, or certainly not a star player. So you're getting him for far, far, far below his worth. And he's gotten to the point where he has earned himself a max contract, and he said he's not taking a pay cut. So, but if you're the Cavaliers, Kyrie's going, LeBron might be going, you're okay. We're going to pay Isaiah max contract and make him the star player of the team. No problem. And then we got the draft pick coming in. So you have if you're the Cavaliers, you have a few things on your roster to try to reset. We don't know what's going to happen with Love. Maybe he'll stay, maybe they'll trade him, but whatever happens, they can absolutely build a team around Isaiah Thomas and this potential number one draft pick, or certainly you'd imagine a top 5 pick, if nothing else, that they'll get and start this thing over and not be, bare, the cupboard being completely bare if LeBron James leaves and obviously Kyrie is already gone. So I'm looking at it from that standpoint. If I'm Cleveland, I'm very, very happy with how I made up with the trade. From Boston's standpoint, obviously you have the star player. You're not looking at necessarily, number one draft picks and assets. You just drafted Tatum, who looks like a promising rookie. You drafted Brown the previous year. So you got a couple of young players already on the team. You're looking at trying to make a run at the championship. So that's why you go get Kyrie Irving. I get it. And he's still on the contract, not only this coming season, but I believe the season after. So you got a good 2 years of Kyrie. And then, and of course, they're looking at, hey, we're going to be able, we're Boston. We're the Celtics. We got the most NBA championships. We got a franchise that's been established. We have the ability to be able to bring Kyrie Irving in and then re-sign him. They're not looking at, oh, we're going to let him go. They already got Gordon Hayward signed long-term. And if they can get Kyrie Irving signed long-term, they're looking at potentially being good for many years to come and taking a good shot at Cleveland to try to win the East and get to the NBA Finals and play for a championship. So I think both teams could benefit. I certainly like Cleveland's side better than Boston's in this trade. We'll see what happens. It makes that Boston versus Cleveland game. I think they're playing as opening night. So opening night. So it makes that game a whole lot. That game just it was already a good game to begin with. Now it's even better. So we got Kyrie coming back to town on the very first game of the season coming up this year. Andrew Wiggins of the Timberwolves has apparently been offered a max extension. And it's one of those things, if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves, you're not a franchise that really brings in, big time free agents. So you got to get your guys through the draft and through trades. Um, so it's a no-brainer. A guy with Wiggins' talent and ability and production thus far. He has not been very good defensively. And with his athletic ability, you think he would be better defensively. Maybe he's still developing on the defensive end. Obviously, he's an athlete. He can score. He can run the floor and do those things like that. So I think it's $148 million on the table for a 5-year deal. It's one of those things where it's really not much of a negotiation. You just put the max offer on the deal, max deal on the table, and just hope he accepts it. That's pretty much all you can do if you're Minnesota. They just brought in Jimmy Butler. They got Karl Anthony Towns. They really have a good-looking team on paper. Can they finally get to the playoffs? That's the only thing I'm thinking about. If you're the Timberwolves, you don't really have much of a choice. They give Wiggins an extension, a max extension at that. But wow, you'd imagine the team would have had a little bit more success. Maybe this is their year. We'll see. Manu Ginobili has officially returned to the San Antonio Spurs. And I believe it's a 2-year contract extension, which is very interesting. I wasn't even sure he'll come back for this year. I thought that might be it for him. And I'd be shocked if he plays out 2 more seasons. I imagine that he'll play the 1 more year, retire, and then the Spurs will just pay him the other year, as a going-away prize. Thank you for your service. He's been an amazing player for the franchise. Obviously, he's a Hall of Fame player. And he's going, he signed a 2-year extension, and he's going to give it another go with the Spurs. They certainly have a great shot at, competing for a championship. They're not the favorites. We know that everybody's looking at Golden State at the top. But they're one of the teams that are going to challenge for the championship this year. Ginobili is not an impact player anymore. He's there for veteran leadership. He's going to play super limited minutes. And they really, really bring him in for playoff time. He's a guy that has a lot of playoff experience and knows how to play in big games. And that's why they're bringing him back. Regular season, I'd imagine he's barely going to play. Get his legs ready, make sure he plays a few minutes to keep him, in shape, and then really get him out there for the playoffs. So, what? And if they do that, maybe he will have 2 years left in him, but I imagine it'll be just 1. And another big event, one more thing I want to talk about this morning, the big event is happening this weekend in boxing, with Floyd Mayweather going up against Conor McGregor. I haven't talked a whole lot about boxing in my videos. Boxing is my mother's, may she rest in peace, it's my mom's favorite sport. So I certainly grew up watching boxing. I grew up on Mike Tyson. When I got a little older, Roy Jones was my main man. I always liked watching Roy Jones. He was the most spectacular boxer I've ever seen in terms of the excitement he brings and just the arsenal of fighting. So I always like to enjoy him, and I like watching him as a commentator as well. He knows basketball. I always like listening to him, even as a color commentator. But anyway, this weekend is about Mayweather McGregor. Money Mayweather is undefeated, 49-0, going for that 50th win. In his fight, it's a mega fight. We understand kind of what it is. It's a whole lot of money, $100 million and all of that, that the fighters are going to be able to make for this event. And the hype leading up to the fight, I think, might be bigger than the fight itself. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to have any special, ring entrances or ring introductions or music or concert. It got to be something they got planned going on to add the excitement to this event, because it's been such a big event. There's so much money, that they're making and that they're generating for this event that they've been hyping up for a while. So the time has finally come. It's happening this weekend. McGregor, we know, is the biggest moneymaker, the biggest draw from, the UFC, MMA world. The thing is, obviously, he's never had a boxing match, an official, boxing match. Mayweather's had 49 of them at a professional level. I see no way whatsoever Conor McGregor has any chance of actually winning it. It doesn't mean that I think it's going to be a first round knockout or anything, because I really think that this could go either way. It depends. Again, they call him Money Mayweather for a reason. He knows how to make money. And it depends on whether they are thinking about beyond this fight. If you look at it from McGregor's side, he has absolutely nothing to lose. He's going to get his biggest payday he's ever gotten. And on top of that, if he gets knocked out the first round, it's no embarrassment to him, because he's not, obviously, boxing is not his game. You know what I mean? So he'll go right back to his element and still be the star that he was and won't lose anything, even if he gets knocked out. And if he does better than that and actually lasts a while, it's even more of a feather in his cap and more of an accomplishment for him to be able to last any length of time with, the best boxer, or certainly one of the best boxers ever, in a ring, and that's still undefeated. And, we know Mayweather's not in his prime. He's towards the end of his career. Obviously, he retired and came back out of retirement for this fight. There's no reason. He doesn't really have a whole lot on the line either. There's no reason for me to think that he won't win this fight pretty easily. So he'll make a lot of money. He'll be able to add one more win to his record. There's not a really risky situation in my view for him. The only thing is, like I said, if they're thinking beyond this fight, I could absolutely positively see Mayweather mixing it up, throwing some punches, taking more risk than he normally would in a fight, allowing it to be a little bit more entertaining, maybe allow Conor to get a couple hits in to excite the fans, to allow McGregor to do better than he may have otherwise done, to hype this fight up so that people aren't disappointed. Because a lot of Mayweather's fights, people are so disappointed in him because he's not an aggressive fighter. He's a defensive fighter. We know that. He's not going to go after his opponent. He's going to play defensive, and he's the best at it. He's the best at playing defensive fighter. He's accurate, and he doesn't get hit. That's his game. That's how he's remained undefeated. That's how he made all his money he's made. Against McGregor, if he mixes up more, go after him, try to get a knockout, do those types, take a couple hits, do those types of things, that will make it more exciting in case, hey, they might want a rematch or they might want to do something. All of that type of stuff. So if they're thinking beyond this fight, I could absolutely see this thing go maybe 12 rounds. I don't bet on it going 12 rounds, but I could see it going 12 so that people could get more excitement, get more value for their money. People will put up a whole lot of money, obviously, to go to this fight or even watch it on TV. In order for them to get their money's worth, so that if Mayweather wants another fight after this one, people will again load up to watch him fight again. Because if they look at this fight and it's a dud, people can be like, all right, man, Mayweather, watch out. Go back to retirement. Thanks for coming. And then, we'll look on to the next fight. So I think my prediction is that it's going to be a more entertaining fight than Mayweather's fights normally are, especially if they're thinking about his future beyond this fight. If they think this might not really be his last fight. I could see them, I could see a rematch happening. I could see McGregor doing better than a lot of people project. And he's going to be aggressive going to knockout because he don't have nothing to lose. So if he gets dominated, oh well. And if he gets some hits in, he'll have a whole lot of trash talking and a whole lot of reason for people to tune in and see him, or tune in potentially for a rematch. So that's kind of my projection of what I think is going to happen. I predict that Mayweather is going to win the fight, obviously. But I don't necessarily predict a knockout. Maybe a knockout. It may be a knockout. He may let it go wild and finally hit McGregor with some shots and knock him out or whatever. But no embarrassment on McGregor's part, no matter what this fight. He's already won. His win was getting this fight. His win was getting this fight and getting this money. As long as he don't do anything to mess up this money, I don't know the official contract clauses. I think a lot of people were talking about that they'll put something in writing in the contract that says that McGregor can't pull off any of those, MMA moves, or he forfeit his money, or he, or whatever. So you don't expect that in the beginning, headbutts or kicks or anything like that. That would be quite entertaining. The crowd would love to see that. Anybody watching would love to see McGregor forget he in a boxing match and throw a kick or something in there, elbow or something crazy. And he'll get disqualified. The fight will be over. It'll get disqualified, but it'll be exciting to people to watch. I don't expect that to happen. I expect that they put something in the fine print that says, hey, if you pull up any MMA stuff, you forfeit your money. So I'm sure it'll, I'm imagining it'll be a regular boxing match, as it's been built to be. Mayweather will win it, and hopefully it's entertaining. I don't know if I'm going to watch it. Maybe I'll go somewhere and watch it. I'm sure it'll be crowded because there's going to be a lot of people, tuning to see it as well. Maybe I'll check it out this weekend. But that's my prediction on that. I hope it's a good event. Boxing has slipped in its excitement lately, so I'm hoping that they can put on a good event, give boxing fans a reason to be excited, fight fans in general reason to be excited. I'm sure if you're a UFC MMA fan that you're tuning in as well, not only to see McGregor, but just to see this big event. So I'm hoping that's a good event. Next time I'm on, certainly a whole lot more talk about the NFL and what happened this weekend in the preseason and any other happenings going on in sports. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Peace and love.